Now, I'm delighted to be joined by former Labour and Tory MP, because he defected to Labour from the Tories, and former Northern Ireland Secretary Shaun Woodward now. Shaun, lovely to speak to you this morning. Obviously, the first question I've got for you in your capacity as former Northern Ireland Secretary is to discuss this dreadful hack that's gone on with Police Service Northern Ireland. 10,000 officers' details have been compromised. I mean, do we think that there's a question of police officers' safety now being in danger because of this, Shaun?
There could be. And the short answer, Camilla, is we don't really know. Following a request for freedom of information, a terrible error was made in the Police Service of Northern Ireland, adding to the request what's called source data, which meant that actually the surnames, initials, and the departments in which 10,000 police officers in Northern Ireland suddenly found online their details had been posted. Now, in Northern Ireland, a lot of policemen go to work every day, not dressed in their uniforms. So men and women leave home in plain clothes. Their neighbours don't know what they go to do. They've had to keep their work secret in order to protect themselves and their families. The risk here is that some of those people's identities have been compromised. We don't know enough. It's a statement that so far has come from the Chief Constable, which is that they're investigating it. The Chief Constable returned from holiday, had a meeting with the oversight body in Northern Ireland that looks at these issues. Some people wanted the Chief Constable to resign. The Chief Constable said he didn't think it would be helpful to resign.
Do you think he should resign?
The Chief Constable... Well, the point about resignation is, does it actually do anything? I mean, right now, we need somebody to find out what's going on, and I'm not sure it would actually help if, because of a mistake, the Chief Constable leaves his job, leaving nobody at the top of the tree to try and sort out what is actually happening and to protect the officers concerned. So probably that's the right decision for now, but maybe the Secretary of State might make a statement on this, because this is one of those areas where, because of power sharing not working properly in Northern Ireland, there undoubtedly is a vacuum that needs to be filled. And what we need, you need, your viewers need to know, is, are police officers right now in danger, and what is being done to protect them?
Yes. We'll get on to power sharing in just a moment. The other question I was going to ask is, there's already talk in today's newspapers about some of these police officers suing the police service in Northern Ireland. I mean, you can't blame them, can you? This is an extraordinary breach of their data. As you've said, it compromises their safety. Do you support the idea that there should be a class action?
Well, what I support at the moment is actually knowing how much in danger these police officers are. Let's be frank about this. If it's no good getting money if somebody subsequently loses their life because their identity has been compromised. And I think, however understandable it is, and I'm sure there are lawyers out there ambulance chasing, as it's called right now, trying to put this class action together. What really needs to happen right now is the Police Service of Northern Ireland, those responsible in Northern Ireland, the Secretary of State here needs to get a grip on actually what's happened and protecting people. And after we've protected them, let's worry about suing people for mistakes. But what we need to do right now is protect people who, in my experience, as I think Labour's longest serving Secretary of State, found these men and women to be extraordinary public service people.
Yes.
And we owe a huge debt to them for protecting the people of Northern Ireland, whatever their denomination.
I think we understand that a Roman Catholic police officer has already moved his family out of Northern Ireland because of the data breach. As you say there, you're the longest serving Northern Ireland Secretary. How do you characterise at the moment relations between Republicans and Loyalists in the district?
Well, I think people have still got to be congratulated on the achievement now of more than 25 years of the political process and the peace process working. There have been huge challenges in recent months and years, not least the fact that now for a year and a half, there has actually been no power sharing vehicle up and running in Northern Ireland. And the politicians, not least the DUP, really do need now to get back into government and start working together, because wouldn't it be better now if the executive was functioning in Northern Ireland and they were the people talking to you about what should be happening.
Yes.
And again, all I have to say here is the Secretary of State has a responsibility to get this all working. And I think it's a great shame that we've actually seen the absence of the Secretary of State yet again in the last few days, when I would like to have seen more of them. And I think it's been interesting that the Taoiseach in the Republic of Ireland has been a very visible presence in the last few days, trying to talk to the parties and get them working again.
Let's speak about Leo Varadkar, because he said this week that if the Stormont power-sharing institutions can't be re-established in the autumn, well, then I do think at that point we will have to start having conversations about alternatives, about Plan B. What would Plan B look like in your mind, Shaun?
Well, that's a very, very good question, because I was, as you know, Camilla, very pleased when Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister of our country. I'm a Labour politician, but he is our Prime Minister at the moment. I hope that changes, but he is who we've got. And unlike Boris Johnson, he put a huge amount of effort into Northern Ireland at the start of his time as Prime Minister. Now, since that time, he's made promises that he would get the executive up and running again. And I think he has been somewhat distracted by all the other problems he's got from actually making progress on that. So Plan B requires the British Prime Minister to get in there with the Irish Taoiseach and everybody else to find a way to get a resolution. Now, I presume what Plan B means is finding a way for the Irish government and the British government to be working together to find a way to get the institutions still in Northern Ireland up and running, and that might be bringing about elections.
Yes.
But again, what I really feel here is what's missing is what we saw under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, and less so increasingly with Conservative Prime Ministers. We need the engagement of the British Prime Minister. It doesn't matter whether they're Tory or Labour. The British PM needs to be in there making these people work together. And a combination of money, legislation, and time, and that's the crucial thing, time. Time is what is missing from the British Prime Minister's agenda in Northern Ireland.
You mentioned Tony Blair there. Obviously, you worked under Blair and Brown. I'm intrigued by the story on the front of the Sunday Times, Shaun. I wondered if you'd comment. Blair Institute kept advising Saudi government after Khashoggi's murder. That's a misjudgment from Tony Blair, isn't it?
Well, you and I suspect every viewer watching this programme, will have been sickened by the death of Mr. Khashoggi and what we learn about the circumstances behind that.
Yeah.
As I understand it, and I don't work for the Tony Blair Institute, but the decision was made not to cancel a contract that was in play with the Tony Blair Institute and the Saudi government at the time.
Misjudged, though?
No, the Saudi government is modernising. That doesn't for 1 second condone what happened in Turkey with the murder of Mr. Khashoggi. But what you and I know, Camilla, you have to ask yourself is the rhetoric and a sudden action is easy. So, for example, if the Chief Constable of Northern Ireland had resigned, would that have made any difference to protecting police officers today? So if everybody had withdrawn from communications with the Saudis, would that have helped? And an obvious example here.
But was it wrong, Shaun, to carry on with this funding?
Cost of energy and petrol prices. Would, for example, withdraw from every cooperation with Saudi Arabia after the death of Khashoggi.
Okay.
And let's say the Saudis cutting oil production as a response would have further built on the cost of living crisis.
Okay. Shaun.
Do anything to help people in Britain.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, we're going to have to leave it there, but lovely to speak to you this Sunday. Thank you very much indeed.